Okay, welcome back to the Playhouse. And if you're catching us here, go back and watch from the beginning. Too much information is being shared here. In fact, talking about information, Julian, for me, paint me a picture, even before we enter this rural media era. Explain to me radio then. You get the landscape. What did it mean to be on radio? Capital. Where was Capital then? Now, because what that explanation does, it begins to show the evolution of radio.
So at this time, for me, I think there was only Capital FM, Nation initially, then Metro. I think those are the only stations other than KBC in terms of like urban sound. Because I distinctly remember when Kiss launched. I mean, I think I was already at Royal Media at the time. So for a long time,
so did you catch Caroline Toko then at Capital?
No, I didn't find that. You know, Capital, my stint was very short. It was 6 months, but so momentous. The people I met, the things I learned, it's actually very fascinating. And there are so many threads that came from that. And it's been the story of my life. I always joke with people, I've never interviewed for a job. I've always been called by someone I met on a previous project. Then their life progresses. Then they call me back and say, yo, I think you're the best person for this. So I've always been called for my next gig. And it's always been by a past contact. And that's why I think I've always told people, being paid or not, you just give it your all. Because it's not only the client looking at you. And funny enough, most of the people who have given me gigs was not even the boss, it was the assistant. But you see, maybe
the assistant progresses in life as well.
In life, people grow. And so I always say, when you're there, you just do the best that you can, because you don't know. You don't know who's watching. You don't know who you're making an impression on. And I've never had to interview for a job in my entire life. I've always been called.
And you're called on credibility of this guy can deliver.
And it's really random stuff. Like, and just something even like there's a time I did a friend of mine called Mwania Musyoki. He needed a jingle done. He was in the TV space. He was trying to do a jingle, and it's interesting, his wife was also in Lavington Church with actually his wife is called Linda Makuyu, David Makuyu's bigger sister. David Makuyu, the radio, David Makuyu of Hope FM family, so his older sister married Mwania. So I think maybe he needed music. I think she told him, I can't even remember how we connected, but point is I did for him a station ID, a show signature tune, because now I was doing I was a master in corporate music. So he did it for the demo, and we never heard about it. It was like, if it goes through, you'll pay me. We moved on from it. So the guy he worked with who did the graphics for the intro, later on is approached by Gado. Gado, the yes, Gado, the editorial cartoonist. And at this time, Gado is developing the concept for the XYZ show. So he's graphics guy who is developing this opening sequence. So he had done this other one so he had the songs in his comp. So he just picked something from his database, put it on the XYZ show to demonstrate the idea. So the XYZ show intro is made. Episode 1 has already been done. Gado listens to the music and likes the music. And he tells him, so Pete tells him, yo, I don't know who owns the music. So they call Mwania. Mwania says, hey man, do you remember a song you did for me like 2 years ago, 3 years? I say, yeah. They want to buy it. I'm saying you're lying. Which song? So first I have to go look for it. Me don't even remember. I whipped it up in like 20 minutes. So I knew it was a demo. Because the point was if it went through, now we'll sit and now create. So when I go, they say no, they want to buy it as is. I'm saying you're lying. So I get a call from a guy called Gado, whom I don't know is Gado. That's not, it's Gado. So I go to his office, I enter. Now, Gado, they ran a company called Communicating Artists. Now, when I enter the office, let me tell you who owned Communicating Artists. Communicating Artists is owned by Gado, Godfrey Mapemba, Paul Kelemba Mado, Franco Doi, John Kaminoa. All 4 in the office. So I enter a room in town. So everyone at their desk, then they have their cartoons in the background. And remember, all your life you've reading Kanda Bongo Man, Mad World. Me, I froze. I said, because God used to do editorial cartoons, which no kid understands. Because you only see the cartoon, you read the story under, there's no connection. Or of course, now when you're older, you know, if you're in the know, you get the cartoon. So I meet Gado, I'm thinking, who are these guys? So he meet, very nice guy, tells me, hey, I want your music, blah, blah, blah. He tells me I have no budgets, but what I can do, I only have 8,000 bob. I'll pay you for this jingle. It's a pitch. If it goes through, we get the grant, the donor funding, then I'll pay you properly. So he says, basically, I just want to pay you something just for the pitch. Because I don't want to feel, he said, I respect IP artists. So it's the first time I'd ever been paid for a jingle, as Julian myself. Because remember, before I'd always done under Johari Clef and stuff. So I was there like, 8,000, thank you, I'll take that. And I go. And this is 2008, I think, at some point. And we never talk about it. Then 2 years later, he calls me and says, yo, we got the grant. Come now to pay for your jingle. And I was like, what? This had never happened. Someone called me later. Then I think he tells me here is 30 Gs. So me, I'm like, what is this? Things that I've done, the ones which I think are value, are going. And in my life, it has happened a lot. Things that I dismissed, they pay and pay and pay. It's insane. So the XYZ show begins. And the first episode goes and I'm wondering, what is this? Puppets, what? So I write an email to Gado. I tell him, I watched the first episode. This is what I think. Remember this time I've been working at Royal Media. I've become, I've jumped ahead. But anyway, but just a side note. Yeah. So you're asking me about the radio scene.
We'll come back to this 2008 stories of XYZ. That's a convo on its own.
Okay. So the radio scene, like I said, there's just Nation, I think at the time, Capital. Then, but now, by the time Nation was opening, I've moved to Royal Media. So Radio Citizen is starting out. It's a Swahili station. It had English, Swahili, Kikuyu initially. We had 3 languages, broadcast parts. And I just started learning programming. It was a very easy job. It's the first time I'd worked with older people because majority of the staff were in their 40s, 50s. So, and it's veteran journalists. But remember, I didn't grow up listening to radio. So me, I don't know who these guys are. I'm knowing them there. Fast value. So I started getting exposed for the first time, and I grew up in Nairobi, so I was not very in touch with the rural scene.
Yes.
Music from the past, how Kenyans live, and I grew up in privilege. My dad was middle class, were well-to-do. So me, I had grown up in Nairobi. So I was not really in touch with, like, I didn't know how life is in Kisii, in LD. I'd never gone there. Most is my shag Central, that's it. And Central is like Nairobi. So I didn't really have a sense. I'd never even gone, I think, beyond Nakuru. So me, I just knew Nakuru was my farthest point, Moranga. I'd not even gone to Coast, I think, at this time in my life. I remember took myself to Mombasa. I took a bus. First time I just said I want to go see what's this Mombasa, yeah? So me, I had a very sheltered life. And I remember I was bubbled, that's the word. And I remember when I was at Radio Citizen, since I was the only producer, and they had given me a blank canvas, I was really experimenting stuff. Because what had happened, you can imagine.
Paul, to cut you short.
Yeah.
I'm just hearing, you didn't go to uni?
Oh, uni. Now, what was happening with uni, I enrolled for a BCom degree. But it wasn't working. In fact, do you remember this time when I was working at Royal Media Capital, I was also in campus. So between 6 and 8 p.m.
Which campus? Nairobi?
Yeah, I was University of Nairobi.
Oh.
So between 6 and 8 p.m. I was in class. So after Citizen, I would dash to campus, 6 to 8. Then because it's in town, I walk over to Capital. Then tomorrow we do it again. But I used to do like 3 classes a week. So I took the minimum so that it's not too heavy, but I didn't enjoy it at all. But I would say it was the course, how it was being taught. Because now I'm so deep in business, it's ridiculous. And finance. But even that course till today, they need to rejig it. BCom, the way it's set up, it's not for modern business. It's what is it called? Business B.Ed. It's B.Ed for campus, yeah. So I didn't enjoy it. So I got to second year and then dropped out and just faded off. And I was the one paying my fees. So really I say, you know what? This media thing is more exciting. So I later went and now did a degree in media. Now for myself.
We still have another 3 hours to talk.
I know, yeah. So, but yeah, so I dropped out of BCom and then just went. It hit me, but where will I use this BCom? Because now we're going to management accounting, statistics, and I was thinking, no, I mean, my line thing, the area that's opening up faster is this media space. And media is starting to blow up. So what happens in 2002, about 2003, Kibaki liberalizes radio and media. Those days it was very hard to get a license. So now stations just explode. And we are setting up, we used to do maybe 3 stations a year. We used to set up 3 new stations a year at Royal Media.
What?
And I was in the lead team. So we come up with the idea of a station, recruit the talent, build the studio. Remember, I've come from an sound engineering background. Then I understand music, so we collect the music. So it's like everything just came together. So it was the first time I was using every skill I had. Every skill I had.
Yep.
Then after you create the station, we have to go sell the concept to a client. So me, I knew how to deal. I knew people in agencies. I understood jingles. I knew how a radio spot sounded. So we start making radio ads at Royal Media. And at the time, all the studios are bougie, so they can only do English radios. At Royal Media, you can do for Kikuyu, Doluo, Luya, Kamba. We are the only ones. You see? So Fred at some point starts saying, hey, this thing of radio ads is becoming a thing. So he tells me, so Fred is a writer as well, a copywriter. So he told me you have to start helping me. So I start learning copying, writing ads, practicing writing ads. I eventually stopped doing production. Now I just became a copywriter. So I became a commercial copywriter. So I just write ads. And in Royal Media, remember we're adding 2-3 stations a day. So now the company, so now the stations are growing. So in a day, we are chopping anywhere between 7 to 10 adverts in a day. Scripting, producing, sending out. It was a factory.
So now you're full-time. I mean, you can't do that.
No, I'm full-time. I'm deep. I'm on a good package. I'm making more money than I've ever needed. And just a point to note, I still live with my sisters. So me, I had a cash hand over fist because I'm staying at home. In fact, I was joking and saying my monthly budget at the time, just to give you context, I think my salary was about 80,000 bob. And now I'm around 23, 24. The reason being, I can write, I produce. I was doing like 3-4 roles. And my monthly budget total was 5,000 per month. 5 Gs only.
I think you haven't bought a car this time.
I'm not even interested. I don't need a car. By the way, actually, I got my deal when I was 27. I'd never been interested in cars. I don't know why that passed me. I was really late.
You were very early in something.
Yeah. So I was so excited about that. So I was making such good money. But beyond the cash, I was so engaged. I was so engaged. In fact, I remember there's a time for 2 years. It's only later now I started understanding the concept of work-life balance. But there's a time for 2 years straight. I think maybe 2004 to 2006, I worked daily. What I mean is from January 1st till December 31st, 2006, I went to work every day. And when I say every day, I mean Christmas, Easter, every public holiday, because I was the only producer. And it's our station. See, there's news daily, there's sports to be done daily. So I used to go to work every day. So one time it's a relative who once told me, Julian, we only see you on funerals, because weddings I would miss. But a funeral, you'd find a way, and I would pop in and then come back. Then I remember when I went for another family function, people had got kids. It really hit me like where life doesn't wait. So you're not even dating at this time? No, I'm not even dating. I was in the biz. I was just building my craft. I was not even noticing chicks. Later is when I started saying, oh, okay, maybe
this money
time.
Needs to find some purpose.
Yeah, but I was just investing. That time I was doing stocks. Mutual funds. Now I had an ID. So now I was redoing everything that I ever wanted to do. Then I still had a studio at home, which now I enhanced. Now I had a full-fledged studio. So I would work nights, weekends, then working. So it was a perfect ecosystem. The whole so at that I'd probably say that was the most industrious time of my life, So yeah, that was
saw that radio
stuff.
station. How was it? Did you ever Washira Waroro and the rest? Did you?
Washira came later on.
SK?
So SK was there from the start.
Yeah.
When I joined Royal Media, we were 20 employees. And Royal Media has always been a very family based. You could walk into it, even till now, you can just go to call SK, tell them I'm thinking this. They've never had those ceilings and stuff. Well, now it's a huge organization, maybe 1,500, 2,000 people. But those days you're 20 people, 30 people. And technical people are maybe 15, 20. The rest are support team and accounts and what have you. Yeah, so it was an amazing time. But for me, while I was there, the company grew under me. We had built 15 radios.
Radio stations?
Distinct radio stations. I had 15 radios I was running. But
so
now
your understanding of Kenya and the diversity that's
the first time now I would say I understood Kenya, because we would go for road shows. because you're going to market and do events for those regions. So me, I don't think, the only place I've not spent time in Kenya is the northern part. Now the Lokis, Manderas there. But this bottom half, I don't think there's any ward I've not been to. I've gone everywhere. And it gave me a real, and interestingly, even now my career kind of was built on that. So most people talk to me when they want to get the more subtle grassroots nuances of communication. Because now I'm a communication consultant. So you have this upper level very well taken care of, but people really struggle with issues of people on the ground. How to engage, how the difference between if you're communicating a message to people in Kinangop, changes with if you're in Kilelesha. I mean, you can't. And then also there's also an interesting aspect. Even in urban areas, there are people who are sophisticated by virtue of where they live, how they dress. But when you really sit with them, this person still grew up in Nakuru, still grew up in Kisii. So that is still there. So and that's why you see Kenya is a very lopsided country. You find and
it's constantly changing.
It's constantly changing. And the people who, in fact, I always joke and say, and I always tease my wife, Modoni, that, so she's been in advertising and she does the most sophisticated type, but I always joke with her, the people they target are not the real people who have the money. The actual people who you want to spend, that's why I always joke. When you go to Jogonas, that's where you'll find the latest cars out there, but it's the cheapest food. And across there's ABC place, there are malls, so much happening around, but at the same time, the youngies, the yappies, the wannabes, those are the ones who live like that. But the real money, so, and it's trying to get people to understand. And this phrase, I've always told people, don't label money. Don't choose money from Derek or Richard. It's the point is who has it. It's not about saying, no, I want 10,000 for my product, but I want it to come from this sophisticated person. No, if the construction worker is doing, then that's actually your customer. Don't choose where the money comes from. Decide, do you want money from this product? Find who has it, period. That's business. But we tend to say, I'm opening a bar and I want these people to come. Then other riffraffs walk in and then you say, no. I'm attracting the wrong crowd. But that's the person.
That's
you want to sell product.
Your goods and products.
Sell product. So you can't choose who will use your products and stuff. So rural media, I think, is a place I was stretched completely. Then Wachira Roro came and transformed TV. So also what many people don't know, rural media at the time was number one in almost 9 regions with its radio stations. But Nairobi people didn't know. Because it was vernacular radios. But we were industry, we were leading, we were the largest media house by revenue at the time in terms of broadcasters. So Nation Standard had the print, so those were heritage. But in terms of broadcasting, the only person who was giving us some push was Patrick Kwakwat, Radio Africa, and the Shafi Weros, Karel Mutoko, Roy Karuhize. So those were like our competitors, and they would raid and poach our presenters, but nobody knew because there was no pulse, there was no the gaffle. These stories were not there. So that's the tension that used to be there. But what we had done, rural media was similar to Safaricom to Equity. We said we will ignore urban, there's money in outside Nairobi, and we invested and took a chance, and it was SK's vision.
In fact, let's just jump in a bit into this. I hear that rural media, in terms of KBC, so I worked at Fountain Media, and Fountain Media, when this whole digital shift came, I used to have to go to KBC with a hard drive and inject the content at KBC in the server room.
Wow.
So when I asked how come Citizen don't do this, I was being told Citizen have infrastructure.
And early days, we didn't have, even we were not sophisticated internally. And one thing SK Macharia used to do, he always insisted that if people can't reach you, if people can't hear you, it doesn't matter what you're doing. That was his concept. If you can't be accessed, and it's a very traditional route to market model. If you have this wonderful ad campaign, but your product can't be found in Eldoret, it doesn't matter if you create demand, awareness, excitement. So he used to be there, get the product in the market, you can always refine the back end. And that's what he did. And he invested in his own infrastructure. Also, initially, he wanted to work with KBC, but KBC didn't want to work with rural media because their content is to call out government. So you see, there's also their state. So they have to be, of course, aligned to the administration at the time. So SK started rolling out. So any money would make, he would add a transmitter. He would add, and we're saying, oh no, we need better comps. We need better studios. We need if you see some of the rooms, some of the stations we created, some were former bathrooms, would just pad the room, put a mixer mic, and we start broadcasting. Royal Media really upgraded its studios like 3, 4, 5 years ago. For the longest, we used Winamp. We used a computer with Winamp, and that's all we ran. We didn't use professional broadcast. And they always tell us, let me tell you guys, the person in the village could be least bothered whether you have Pro Tools or Winamp. The point is, do you have a story they can connect with? Is your signal clear? Do you play music that's authentic? And he was strict. If it was a Luo station, he only wants to hear Luo music. Because you're saying, why are you mixing? They have enough. If they want to hear Swahili, they'll come to Citizen. So he had quite a clear sense. For us, we used to have serious fights, and he allowed us to argue and fight it out. But until we understood what you were saying, and also we were not seeing success. Because you talk to advertisers, they say, hey, who is going to buy media in a Kisii station? Those guys. Yet the money and economy there. You see, but over time, what happened? These companies that were national, that had grassroots, the Cokes, the Equity, Safaricom, they knew that Nairobi is good, but let me tell you, there are more people outside Nairobi then. So we started getting a lot of early partnerships. Then at some point, everyone clicked it. Unilever started doing the cardogo economy, selling things for 5 bob. And where would you go to advertise? Media. So at some point, around 2 or 4 there, magic happened. And then suddenly, and you see what was happening, we couldn't get Barclays Bank or Kenya Airways to advertise, but neither could Capital get Coopers. They couldn't get RMS. They couldn't get Equity. They couldn't get, now when you start looking at the pyramid, there are more products down here than up there. So we just started minting, and it took a long time. By the time the media maxes came and started, and don't forget, remember the first pioneer was Regional Rich Kameme. She, but even her, she had English. She even had a BBC section. She had Swahili. So SK said, nope, we are going pure. And he took the chance, and without his guts. So I think on one hand, we were so naive on the risk he was taking. He just told us, you guys make a station. So as we didn't know what was happening, whether there was financing, whether we didn't understand how the business model worked. It's only later now we started understanding how to generate revenue, advertising. Another challenge we had.
The TV come up right now?
No, TV is struggling now because we're getting some money from radio. We are starting to hire some people.
But when you joined radio, it's radio and TV all at once. You were available.
Both of them were launched, yes. But TV used to show feeds. We used to show CNN, a news feed from Japan called NHK, and then we only had news. I don't think we had any shows.
So were you doing any audio engineering for TV?
No. Even TV, I didn't do anything for TV for the longest time. I just dived into radio. Because I was not very keen on TV. So TV I did on my own. The most I did was now sound, post-production, music. That's really what I used to do for TV. But I wasn't doing anything like proper, because they were quite bifurcated at Royal Media. And radio had 15, when did you have time? So Ashira came, and then now we said, let's create TV. And he was an amazing guy. He inspired us. He was our first MD ever, because before we just had the owners. It was the owners, then head of departments and stuff. So Ashira came, consolidated the company, and then Ashira is a brilliant creative. Many people don't know. Ashira Ruru is one of the top creatives in the country in terms of concepts. So a lot of these TV shows, he's the one who came up with them. And then he's a kind of guy, he's very collaborative. In fact, I remember, I produced the Papa Shirandula jingle, by the way. And I wrote it. Yes, I actually wrote the song. Gabriel Omondi did.
Guys have used that thing as a reference point on how to do a jingle.
I'm the one who produced it. So we wrote the lyrics with Ashira Roro. He gave me the concept. With Ashira. We went to Gabriel Omondi and we produced the jingle there. Then all the stations, the station IDs, we were the ones who used to write them. Now I remember I'd been doing this. So it was such a weird morph. In fact, Radio Citizen, Ramogi FM, Musi FM, and I think in Noro FM, the station IDs are all done by Bruce Odhiambo. Now I became his client. It was surreal. So I used to be the one seated in the client seat because we had a client seat. Then Bruce is producing. It was really weird.
That is crazy.
That was, so foot was full circle.
No, you have to say that again. I don't think, just in case some people have not understood this. So now, you representing Citizen. That's not even Citizen, Royal Media.
Royal Media this time now.
Yes. You would go because you want jingles produced.
And I know who can make them.
Yes. So of course, you're going to Bruce and you say, no, change it like this.
And then you see, you can imagine now the kind of client that I am. Because I know exactly what's going on. So by the time I come, I'll come with reference tracks, tell him I'll come with lyrics. tell him now I want a jingle.
And you've learned from him.
And we've learned from it. Was weird. Yeah, it was humbling, but Bruce was amazing.
Yeah.
And he treated me like a client. In fact, that's something else I learned from him. Because he could have chosen, I mean, Bruce was maybe 20 years my senior. He could have chosen to be, what are you telling me? But let me tell you, in fact, what was weird, so he's the kind of guy who would say, what do you want for lunch? Anything he'll order. I got the Johari Clef client experience, even if I'd been on the other side for 2 years. Yeah, so, and that's what I'm saying, that's the businessman that he was.
Yeah,
because he knew right now, you're the one paying me. It doesn't matter our history, our background, you're the one paying me, what do you want? And we did a lot of work with Bruce. Yeah.
But also, you see, you also took it back business to him because you knew he would deliver.
No doubt. There was no doubt. And I knew there was no one who could get that sound. And I worked with many producers. I worked with Ted.
Talking about producers, Eric Musyoka. I've not heard you mention Musyoka.
Eric Musyoka, wow. Okay. Now, so when I'm at Royal Media,